Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld. In the previous episode we came to the north part of the lake and started setting up our new outpost, which I named Cape Kerbal, of course, after Cape Canaveral and Kerbal Space Program, because this will be our dedicated rocket launching outpost. We're going to set up multiple silos, get the production of some basic rocket components in place, and get this being a sort of as self-sufficient as possible rocket launching outpost. I say self-sufficient, I mean in terms of power and defense, because I do intend to deliver in a lot of the materials from the main base, and I'm still sort of working out exactly how I do it, but I've got a good idea of what my sort of plan is. But we need to start off by just setting up like the basic rail structures and things like that to make this an operational outpost. So we need to set up some double rail lines, get some loops in place so we can get trains arriving and leaving nicely. So I'm just sort of working out this bit on the end. I'm having to move the rails up a bit to actually fit the loop in properly. I could mess about with it and make it a weird shape, but I just decided to move everything up by a couple of squares to make a little bit more room for everything. So the line that the Megatrain arrived on will turn into a station, and we'll have the main line above it, and then another, well, I guess the two main lines above that, and another station above that as well. So I move the train around, get things in place, putting in the new structures, making sure there to leave a little bit of a gap so we can put in some walls between where this station joins up with the main line, and then the line goes into the loop. Because I've learned from previous problems with outposts and with towns as well that you need to have a bit of a gap so you can actually fit some gates in place and get things properly defended. Otherwise, the biters just have some sort of direct route in. Anyway, as I was setting it up, I realised I actually had everything backwards because of how I'd set things up. The Megatrain was now on the wrong side of the tracks, facing the wrong way. So I just quickly move it back onto the one-way section further along here, which allows me to reverse it onto the proper side so we can have everything going clockwise as it does back at the main base. Otherwise, we'd have all sorts of issues with trying to get things to fit together. I'm glad I spotted it then. If I'd left it a while, we could have ended up with it being properly set up the wrong way around and just having to deal with it if I tried to set up a two-way system all the way back to the main base. Because I'm not sure sort of how much I'm going to put in terms of infrastructure. I don't know like exactly how I'm going to have the trains visiting the place. But anyway, at the moment we don't need to worry about that. We just need to get this sort of bit set up. Once we've actually got parts of the factory in place, we can work out better what we actually need to be bringing in, how often we need to be bringing it in, and what sort of trains and rails we need to build for that to work. So I've set up a dedicated station for the Megatrain, the same as I've done in the midpoint. I just have Cape Kerbal Megatrain as a station, and that will just be for that train, and then we can have any other trains visiting in a separate area to help tidy things up a little bit. And I'm making it a little bit cleverer this time. I didn't do it so well when I set up the midpoint base, because I tried to have it all on one side of the tracks, and so I had to really cram everything in, which is going to be a nightmare once 0.13 comes along, because the vertical length, particularly, of trains is going to extend by quite a bit, and the Megatrain is no longer at all going to fit in that part of the midpoint base. I'll have to do a little bit of messing about to make things work there again. Though, we probably don't need the Megatrain to visit there again. It's set up now, it's doing its thing, it's working and defending, and it's got everything nicely built up, and any supplies that it needs are coming in from either from the main base or from its own mining facilities anyway, so that should hopefully be fine. But if we did want to get the Megatrain parking up there and properly using the all of the loading and unloading and the logistics stuff, then we'll have to completely rearrange the whole thing. It's going to be quite messy. So we'll try and avoid that if we can. Luckily, I think most of the stations will be mostly unaffected. It seems like what's happening is they're basically standardizing the vertical length of trains to the horizontal length rather than trying to meet in the middle somewhere, which means that pretty much all the horizontal train stops will still be fine. The Megatrain stop back at the main base will probably need some changing, because the train's so long that the small differences in the lengths of the cargo wagons all stack up and make things get more and more misaligned as you go along. But I think there's enough room there to mess about with the length of it a bit without worrying. It's just a case of moving around the various storage chests and everything like that, which I'll make sure to be a lot more careful about this time around. Anyway, I'm getting the two-way system extended all the way along to sort of the next corner. Doesn't need to be this long. I could put a loop further back, but I just decided to get it extended all the way back to the corner back there, because we might be just turning this all into a two-way system anyway once we've got things set up, and we've got plenty of rails handy now to start working on that. And there's no waste if it's not done really. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to be using up materials as much as possible to give the factory a lot more stuff to do. And after the whole mess up with the Megatrain station, we have a lot in the way of spare rails to be using up. So we get to the other side, we can set up a loop here, though I think again there isn't very much room to get this set up properly. I think I have to move things around a little bit more to get it to work, but it works out fine. Having to clear away millions of trees, which is causing a bit of trouble for my inventory. I can't exactly just like put them into my trash slots and have them taken away and put in storage out here. We don't even have any power yet, let alone any sort of logistics system. Apart from, of course, the bots that I've actually brought along myself, which are the ones getting all the wood in the first place. So I'm having to sort of find places to put it as the episode goes on, just like making more and more cargo wagons just load up with the stupid amounts of logs we end up gathering. I mean, I could just like blow up the trees, but I feel like that's wasteful. At some point we might actually use the wood for fuel, so it's a good idea to just keep hold of it. At some point it might be used as some sort of important crafting material in some new coming feature in like 0.13 or 14 or whatever. Anyway, we get the two-line system properly set up. We'll have to go along the actual single line and set things up properly later on. So yeah, there's basically two options, as there were with Mega Copper and the midpoint. It's either have it two-way all the way along, which makes things more convenient for any passing trains. It's very good if there are a lot of trains moving along the system, or we could just have a passing point system, which works better if there are less trains going on. It might be that we just have like one long train that goes between here and the main base. I'm not really sure yet. We'll sort of decide on it. There's a lot that needs bringing in. So I'll start talking about exactly what we're going to do. I'm continuing to clear away the trees here. There's a nice bit of space below to start setting things up. But we're going to have a bunch of rocket silos. I'm thinking at least 4. We'll probably start with 4 and then see how it goes from there. Maybe we'll expand to like 9 or something like that. Make some sort of nice square of it. And we'll have all the materials that are being loaded into those silos at a pretty constant rate if we can. So that basically we can launch multiple rockets at once, and we don't have to wait too long between launches from any particular silo. We'll try and build up a bunch of supplies for that sort of thing, so we can sort of make it like an operational space program style of thing. Basically, trying to do Cape Canaveral back in the back in like maybe the shuttle days or whatever. Back when they would actually like have 2 shuttles ready to launch at once in case something went wrong with one. They could have another one sent up to go help out or whatever. Setting up here a station. At the moment it's set up for a 4 cargo wagon train with enough room for a 5th, and I even set up the inserters for a 5th. And what I do is set them up based on what I think is happening with the trains in 0.13. I think it's that each cargo wagon is 7 squares long. Maybe it's 8, but it's one of those basically. So I set it up as if they're 7 long, and hopefully that should mean that they line up quite nicely with both the current train design and the new one. We'll have to see when it comes along exactly how it works out. I think there might be something about the trains themselves being shorter than the cargo wagons or something like that, as it currently stands. I haven't really looked at it properly, but it seemed like that was the case from how things were working out when I was placing things. And I imagine in 0.13 that will all be standardized and everything will be the same length to just make everything easier. Make it so that you always know where the cargo wagon is actually going to be, rather than having to mess about and actually put one in place so you can tell exactly where the inserters are supposed to go. We start setting up the power here. I've got my blueprints for accumulators and solar panels, and I'm trying to work out where to put them. I was hoping I could fit a nice like 2x2 square in that little spot there, but unfortunately it just was like 1 square too thin or whatever. So I decided to just go over here, which has a lot more space to it. There's also a nice stone deposit here, which could be quite useful with all the concrete we'll want to be using in this outpost. It'll be annoying to ship all of it up from the main base if we can avoid it. Though we will still probably have to bring in iron ore. There is an iron ore deposit fairly near to this outpost, but it's quite a bit towards the biters. And it's sort of not what I intend to go for with this base. The midpoint was like 50% self-sufficient. It was mining its own iron, but it needed copper coming in from the Mega Copper base. With this one, I'd like it to be the other way around, where it relies pretty much entirely on supplies from the main base, which would be good for the main base because it wants something to do. It wants some nice task to give it a bit of a challenge. So the idea is that, well, the current plan is that this outpost will receive all the sort of components needed to make the actual rocket technologies. Basically, anything that is specifically for rockets and nothing else. So we've got rocket fuel, low density structure, I think it's called, and then control computers. I forget what the actual names of the things are. The reason being that they only are ever used in rockets, so it's easy to forget about them. They're not something that you need, that every factory needs to have production of if you're not going for rockets. So we always forget what it actually is. Maybe it's guidance computer or something. But those will be made on site. But all the components they're made from will be delivered in. So we'll probably have deliveries of steel, copper, plastic, sort of more intermediate products like pipes, processing units, electric engines, and even some like proper structures like solar panels and accumulators, because they're actually used in the satellites that you load onto the rockets when you launch them. So that'll all be delivered in. The three sort of rocket components will be assembled on site. Satellites will be assembled on site. I'll also have decided that the rocket silos themselves will be assembled on site. And then, of course, the three components of the rockets will be loaded into the silos and used to make the rockets themselves. So there's a lot of production going on, both here and back at the main base for it, which I think is a nice balance for it. That's the current plan. Maybe I'll change it so that more of the intermediate bits are built over here, but I think at the very least I'll have the actual rocket-specific technologies constructed in this area. So it might be that we only need one big train for it, which is why I've set up that larger station. I can always change it about. It's just sort of a placeholder at the moment to work out what sort of length the station will be and things like that. You can see I'm loading up now a third cargo wagon full of wood from just the ridiculous amounts I'm clearing from here. I could be more efficient with it, but I decided to just clear it all out and have a bit of a blank slate, and it should be okay. I don't think there'll be a huge amount of pollution produced here, but then I'm not completely sure, because I'm not sure if you can actually put modules in rocket silos. It's a long time since I've actually used them, so I've sort of forgotten if they have slots for it or not. But yeah, we need huge amounts of materials to actually make each individual rocket, so it should give plenty of work to the main base, and hopefully use up some of the random materials we've ended up putting together after messing up with the Megatrain station. So, like, one of the nice things is we've got a bunch of extra solar panels and accumulators, and they'll all be used up to make satellites. But I say all, there won't be a huge number of them, because we only need one satellite per rocket, whereas, like, the low-density structure, I think it's 1,000 of it per rocket. I think you use 10 to, like, complete 1% of the rocket's construction, or something like that, so we're looking at 1,000 of that each. So, if there was any spare, like steel or copper or whatever, then that's going to be gone very quickly. And the same with basic speed modules, because they're used in the guidance computers, or whatever they're called. But we've got our power in place. We've got 6 squares of accumulators and however many squares of solar panels. It's not the most efficient design ever. Some people don't like it that I just like separate out the accumulators and solar panels, because there are more efficient like arrays that you can make in terms of space and things like that, and you can make it so that there's like a perfectly dense square of accumulators and solar panels that is also like perfectly balanced, I think, for like for power production, so that the accumulators run out exactly as soon as the solar panels pick up the slack with power generation, and then the solar panels exactly fill up the accumulators before shutting down for the night and things like that. But I prefer to just have them separate and be able to build them as I need. Like back in the main base, it makes a little bit more sense because we sometimes have steam engines operational and things like that. I mean, not so much nowadays. It used to make a lot more sense back when I always had some steam engines running. But I prefer being able to individually control how many accumulators and how many solar panels I have. So I can look at the power network and see how much I need. And I don't have to mess about like setting up some crazy blueprint or anything and trying to like run the numbers on like how much power is generated and things like that. It's much easier to me to just have separate accumulator and solar panel blueprints and then just look at what the power system is doing. Is it shutting down in the night? Then I'll build more accumulators. Are the accumulators being charged? Well, I'll build more solar panels and things like that. I like to play things by ear more than some people with things like this. So I've put down a number of each, and I have no idea whether it'll be enough or too much or whatever for the factory. It'll be a case of setting up the production, seeing what the power usage is, and then deciding if it needs tweaking or anything like that. So we've also got our defensive system set up now. I've got the actual structures in place. I haven't actually got it running yet. We've got a big array of standard turrets, and then also laser turrets in between each one. So we should have defenses whether the power fails or the ammo supply fails or anything like that. I'm lining up the solar panels to fit nicely with the Megatrain, and hopefully that'll still make some sense once 0.13 comes along. So I've sort of spaced it so that they go in like the gaps between cargo wagons, so it doesn't get awkward and get in the way of me putting any inserters in place. I don't know if I'll even have like a proper unloading system for the Megatrain here, because it made more sense in the midpoint, with the midpoint having a lot of different production to work on. But here it's going to be all pretty much set up. We'll have we'll sort of work out exactly how much we need of each material to make like one silo containing a rocket or whatever, and then we'll just make sure that the delivery train has those specific amounts. So we can probably just have the one train. If it turns out that it doesn't visit often enough to properly keep everything running, then maybe I'll have two, so that there's enough of a sort of consistent supply or whatever. But I mean, in that case, I just double the numbers and do it like that. So yeah, I need to sort of work out the ratios of different materials needed. It's going to be fairly simple. It's going to be like 1,000 of a bunch of different materials, basically anything that's used in the actual the different like individual components for the rockets themselves and things like that, and then like 1,000 concrete for the silo, and then 3,000 steel or whatever the crazy number is. There's some stupid amount of steel needed, I think, to set it up. I had a look at them all before, but of course I've forgotten them by now. But yes, we've got the laser turrets and everything in place, and I've just connected them up to the power. Everything's running fine. I mean, the lasers don't have anything to do at the moment, so that's not surprising. But now I'm setting up the... well, I've already got the belt in place, and I'll start getting some actual ammo loaded onto it so we can get the gun turrets working. At the moment, we don't have any sort of consistent ammo supply. We'll probably just have it delivered in on the supply train. But we have a nice 10 plus stacks between the Megatrain and me that I can start putting into the system. So I just set up a little chest and start getting that unloaded onto the belt. I'm trying to work out how we can get it all to be on the same side of the belt. It probably won't make any sort of difference, but I think it slightly speeds up, or maybe slightly slows down the speed at which the ammo is taken, depending on which side of the belt it is. I forget what it is, but I decided to have some consistency because it's nice, and I get that loading. And then start putting in all the inserters to load into the turrets. Sometimes I use burner inserters for this, but seeing as I'm just going to like cover this entire outpost with power supply anyway, it seems like I might as well just put in the standard inserters. Also, I already have like stacks and stacks of them, even beyond what my storage is capable of, thanks to the Megatrain incident, which I guess we'll start calling it just the Megatrain incident. Everyone will know what I'm talking about. So yes, we've got that working. That'll slowly fill up the turret system. We shouldn't have any trouble from biters, because at the moment there's literally no pollution. That'll only start once we actually get some assemblers and things in place, which we will start on in the next episode. For now, I want to bring some of this wood back to the main base, because there's just so much of it and there's nowhere to put it. I might as well just like load it up into a train and send it back. And I should probably set up a dedicated station for unloading this sort of thing. Off the top of my head, I don't think I have anywhere where I can just park up a 2-wagon train and just have it like drained into the logistics system or whatever. And I really should. I think at times I've had that sort of thing, but then I've got rid of it again. But I think I'll set up a proper dedicated one. So anyway, we hop on board this train, send it back to the spare train station, and we'll work out what we're doing when we get there. And then we'll come back and start working on the actual production of our rocket stuff. So with that, I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.